wasn't really intending to do a video, but I got bored with the podcast I was watching. So I'm going to be doing a lot more on this. I've got huge legal deadline today. I'll probably hit something over the weekend, but let me give you some bullet points. Gun control, if you don't understand what progressivism is, if you haven't read my book, which explained what it is for the first time ever in plain English, you don't understand gun control. So it's like you're going into battle and you don't understand that General Lee's got some artillery on that hill. You think he's just got some infantry. So you go into battle and you don't know what you're looking at and you get your ass kicked. Okay. You go into battle with the gun control people and you don't know what progressivism is, you're probably going to lose the argument. You're certainly not going to convince them. So gun control is just a species of the genus progressivism. What is progressivism? Progressivism is a political mindset that believes that the solution to any and all human problems is some sort of positive government action. That means, by the way, positive government violence, because the state is intrinsically a violent institution. It can either act defensively, and it does so on occasion, say by catching a murderer, or it can act offensively, which it does 99% of the time. So that's what progressivism is. There's no rational, factual, or logical content to it. It's a form of emotional therapy. So if you don't understand that, you don't understand who you're dealing with. Now, because progressivism is a sort of an ideology, it's irrational, but it's an ideology. You know, in the pejorative definition of ideology is that the ideologue has this mental picture of the world. He or she doesn't care if it matches up to any facts or not. So when you deal with somebody like that, and I know people say libertarians are ideologues. We are and we're not, depending on the definition. So that's a side issue. So when you're dealing with a progressive gun controller, you're dealing with an ideologue who has no rational, logical, or factual content. So they basically lie like a rug. I'm not even sure they believe in truth. So they could say, well, I'm not lying because there's no truth. I get it. They're making stuff up constantly. So I've been trying to, on Twitter, I'm debating some of these people. I'm debating and on Facebook to a limited extent as well. So their basic message, and I'm going to flesh this out more. If you want to know more details about it, see my primer on the Second Amendment called The Second Amendment Works. It's a shame, really. I hate to bitch about this kind of thing, but it's a damn shame that the Second Amendment movement in the United States hasn't promoted my book. It's the best argumentation for the Second Amendment. I blow everybody away. Sorry, I'm too fucking old to lie anymore. So they're trying to make the argument that the United States is the most violent country on earth. It's total bullshit. It is not true. We are not remotely the most violent country on earth. We're 76th in murders. If you believe the World Peace Index, we're like 42 in overall violence. Another ranking of terrorist casualties, we're like 28th. Now, you say, well, yeah, 28th, we shouldn't be 28th. That's terrible. Well, first of all, the progressive big government, which has been running the fucking country for 100 years, is interventionist. I explain this again. If you haven't read progressive, I'm not just trying to sell books here, but I watch the news. I see these people, the people we're putting on the show. Some of them are okay. Most of them are not. Most of them don't understand what they're dealing with. I figured all this stuff out, folks. How did I do it? Well, my father was a judge when I was 3. So whenever I started to realize there was such a thing as politics, 7, 8, 9 years, I've been in this game for 55 years, folks. I've figured it all out. I met some of the greatest minds ever, really. Rothbard was my teacher, by the way, in economics. Personally, my teacher. So I've been at this game a long time. Figured out a lot of stuff. Don't reinvent the wheel. Get my book, pass it on, send it to the talk shows, send it to the groups that are having people speak. I can't even get arrested on the lecture circuit, but that's another thing. Actually, I got invited to a big gun convention down in the Poconos in October. And so I'm just getting started on the lecture circuit, but I'm putting all this stuff out. So as far as the other category, see, you have to understand. So here's a couple of quick lies, and I'll probably just wrap it up, because I'm going to do a more formal podcast on this with notes and references and everything. So how do they lie? First of all, they lie by grouping suicides with other homicides, because technically suicide is a homicide. Well, suicide is a completely different issue, and it's a bogus issue. I explain why it's a bogus issue in the Second Amendment works. So forget that. They lie about that. They only count quote gun-related fatalities. Well, why just count those? Because they're gaming it. They're gaming the statistics. They don't count terrorism, and they don't count casualties from war. Look, go to the one of the things I looked at. There's a travel index, actually, and you'll find, if you know, travelers, these are wealthy people who could go basically anywhere in the world. If you can get to the U.S., you could probably get to a lot of closer, cheaper places. We're third in tourism behind Spain and France. You know, there's a lot of attractive tourist places there, and you know, those countries attract people from Europe who can drive there or take a freaking train there. You know, the U.S., you pretty much have to fly. So we're third in tourism, and obviously tourists realize it's relatively safe to come here. The crime, by the way, is another lie of the gun controllers. The crime is concentrated in the inner city, and I've written on this in my books. There's a cluster of failed progressive policies. Let me see if I can rattle them up. So, government schools are bad for your kids. The war on drugs, the welfare state, which broke up the black family. Slavery did not. The welfare state broke up the black family. So these people, look, government creates its own demand. I've written on all this stuff. I'm just trying to get as much out as I can, so people can pursue the books if they want to. They've manufactured these problems. Government manufactures poverty. Government manufactures crime. Government's the most violent institution in America, by the way. I'm going to get into that a little later. That's going to blow their freaking minds apart. So look, I've got this, folks. I've got this. I'm a better debater than anybody on the other side. I've figured out all the theory. I know all the facts. Get me in front of your group. Outside of New York is fine. They pick up my travel expenses. Get me on your favorite talk show. If you're sick of us getting our asses kicked all the time, send a memo. Get Jim Strauss on. They get 17 of those. They'll have me on the show. Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, any people that you think should hear my point of view. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Starting to scare people on the bike path. Over and out. Much more later. The Second Amendment works. Progressivism forever.